Let's go to Sheriff David Clarke. Sheriff, we ate up 10 minutes of your time, but I'm having too much fun for one man to have. I'm sorry. Welcome, Sheriff.
Thanks. Don't worry about it. It's not my time. It's your time. It's your show. It's your world.
Oh, come on, Sheriff. I love getting you on. So what do you think? Sheriff, okay, so here's I just want to get your thoughts on this. So the job numbers come out Friday, right? And we had 2.5 million jobs instead of losing 7.5, 10 million thing. And then I said to myself, okay, what are the Democrats going to do now? They got to do something. So now what they're doing is not opening up schools so that we can continue to hammer education and kids, no football, for one reason. And that reason, of course, is don't add any jobs, because if your kids aren't at school, you can't go to work. Sheriff, when does this end?
I think it ends, John, when we decide that we're going to fight. Okay, no more playing patty cake, no more playing pussyfoot with these individuals. We're going to have to fight. And, you can see, and it's kind of in their DNA. They never give up. They never know defeat. No defeat is ever final. They keep push. The only thing that's going to stop them is to not push them back, shove them back. So, we're watching them bit by bit try to dismantle this republic. And each time they come forward with one of these assaults, they get a little further. All right, and that's what I find highly problematic. I mean, we can see now why for the last, 30, 40, 50 years, they've been trying to disarm us. They know that if they're able to disarm us, it will be all over. So, I get asked, what do we do? Well, we have to have the will, the stomach, to use some of the tactics that they use. And I'm not talking about rioting. That's an ineffective tactic. But I don't see enough counter-protests, and we need that. I know there was a large event, pro-law enforcement event, that was scheduled for Las Vegas next week, and the event organizer canceled it because the law enforcement there, and I think Vegas is Clarke County, Nevada, told them that they should probably call it off because it wouldn't be safe. So in other words, our side cannot exercise our First Amendment right to protest in favor of the police, but they get to do anything that they want. And this is what I mean when I say to shove back. And I told this guy, I was interviewed by him yesterday on his radio show, and I said, you should have had it anyway. I respect your decision to call it off, but you should have had it anyway, because that's the kind of tactic, the counter tactic as an example, that we're going to need to push these idiots back into the holes that they came out of.
Sheriff, you're calling for nationwide counter-protest on a mammoth scale. But here's the problem. When the other side protests, they get applauded, they get TV coverage, nobody does anything. Curfews don't matter, nothing matters. Loot, rob, whatever. So, it's all fine. Tear down statues, throw them in the lake. Cops are there, do nothing, okay? But yet, when the other side protests about lockdowns, they're threatened with jail time. They're threatened with pulling their business licenses. When the other side wants to protest about maybe not defunding the police, they're not permitted to do so, and they're threatened. So how do you protest in a society where the rules are different based on what is your political agenda?
Yeah, great question, and I've talked about this, and it's all in the numbers. You have to overwhelm government's ability to be able to do anything other than stand there and watch. And I noticed that some of the protests, and I attended several of them, one in Michigan, two in Wisconsin, during the lockdowns. And although it was a decent turnout, it wasn't enough. I know you were just talking about some protests yesterday where 1,000 people showed up. The left has this ability to be able to summon, and they're very good at this, I give them credit, summon large amounts of people at a moment's notice. So we have our counter-protests, and you get 200, you get 100, you get 50 over here. See, we don't have enough. You have to have a critical mass of people. So we have all these law-abiding Americans, all these people who love this republic, all right? They're law-abiding Americans, and they're silenced. They're afraid right now. They have been sent into hiding out of fear, because if you say anything that just sounds clumsy, if you display your patriotism, you are attacked. People are getting fired over this. They're losing their jobs, and I'm not asking them to do that. I'm just telling you what is going to have to happen in order to push this thing back. If we're not willing to do it, John, if we're not willing to fight, I mean, keep in mind that the Founding Fathers did not have the support, total support of the 13 colonies to take on King George. All right? You had this ragtag bunch of people who fought a guerrilla campaign, took on the greatest, at least a naval power in the world, and beat them. Why? Tactics. So if we don't have enough people with enough stomach, with enough will to come forward, when we call for a police protest, or a police rally, and we can't get 2,500 to 3,000 people, well, that tells me a lot. So as long as we're going to sit in silence here, we're going to get steamrolled. I'm telling you now, we're going to get steamrolled by this movement.
So, okay, we've got to expand here. We're with Sheriff David Clarke. He's America's Sheriff. He's a senior advisor with WeBuildAWall.us. You can follow him on americasheriff.com, Sheriff David Clarke. So let's get to defund the police, this movement now to, I guess, reimagine the police, defund the police, get rid of the police. I mean, there's actually Congress people like Rashid Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, AOC, who wants to eliminate, I guess, police in the United States. So I guess if you're getting robbed, you call a social worker and they'll talk your assailant out of raping you or whatever they're doing, robbing your home, destroying your business. It's mind-boggling to me, but it's real. I mean, it's almost like where you'd say, oh, this is like The Onion, right? You're making this up. No, it's real. L.A. just said 150 million gone, and other avenues, other cities are following it, including Minneapolis. In fact, one of the elected council people there, Jeremiah Ellison, son of the Attorney General Keith Ellison, has announced his support for Antifa, a terrorist group who throws Molotov cocktail and tries to hurt people. What is going on here, Sheriff?
All right. First of all, let's kind of sort that out. Remember, it started as defund. Now they've blown the door open. Now it's abolished. This is not a serious public policy proposal. This is buffoonery. These people are lunatics to suggest something like this. But I look at it this way at this point. Okay, fine. Let's let Minneapolis. They elected these goofs. Let's let Minneapolis conduct this social engineering experiment. That's all it is. Let's let them try it. That social order has collapsed once. That social order will collapse entirely without police. Every time the left conducts a social engineering experiment with policy, it blows up in their face. I think that the best case example was how nationwide they went soft on school discipline. How did that work out? It led to Nicholas Cruz gunning down 17 of students, of his fellow students at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas School, and killing another 17 because they went soft on school discipline. There's an example of how every time they put their hands on a social engineering experiment, it blows up. So let's do this. I don't live in Minneapolis. Let's do this. Let's let them abolish the Minneapolis Police Department. That thing will blow up so fast. They'll be calling for the police to come back so fast. First of all, if I were an officer, I wouldn't come back unless they triple my salary. And then you know what? They can deal with it. Let them deal with it. Let's build a wall around Minneapolis. That's one of the things we're going to have to do. Build a wall around Minneapolis, and let's see how this damn thing works out. Because I think we're getting to a point in this country where the American law enforcement officer is reaching a tipping point of just saying, you know what, the hell with this. It's not worth it. We've already seen what depolicing looks like in the days following Ferguson, Missouri, when cops were not as aggressive as they needed to be. And all of a sudden, what happened? The crime rates went up. First of all, I think that policy proposal is one of the other reasons I think that this is crazy is because you would have to loathe black people to suggest defunding or abolishing the police. John, oftentimes the only thing standing between a good law-abiding impoverished minority in these ghettos and the violent, vicious criminal element is a law enforcement officer. So when you take away law enforcement officers, you are signaling we have no use whatsoever for our impoverished people, our elderly, and other people who rely on the police. That's what you're signaling. That's what I get out of it. And so I said, let's try it.
Try it.
Look, I'm well armed.
Right.
I have 3 semi-automatic rifles. I have probably 6 or 7 handguns, plenty of ammo. If we want to go back to the day when it was every person for themselves, every man for themselves, you took care of your own business. Someone stole your horse, or back in that day, and you went out and did your own justice. If we want to go back to John, I'm fine with it. I'll be fine. I'm well trained. I can handle it. Not everybody can. I'll take care of my neighbors too. All right. If we want to do that, I say let's do it.
So you want to just go forward with it? I mean, go ahead. Let's let Minneapolis look. The people of Minneapolis elected these council members. They elected the guy that backs Antifa, right? I guess Antifa will be their new law enforcement or mobs or something. I mean, they elected these people, and like we always say, right? Elections have consequences. So let's get rid of the police in Minneapolis. You're right. Build a wall around it and see how things work out, right? See how it goes. Let's give it to them. Maybe it'll work and there'll be no crime and everybody will say, well, there's no police there, so we're not going to steal anything. We're not going to do anything because, there's no crime scenes and that wouldn't be fair to people. And there'll be a lot of social workers and they'll be talking to us and, they'll be offering us lemonade and, even a beer, a Corona with a lime. It's all good. All right, kumbaya. Let's see how it goes. If it doesn't go well, then we can defend ourselves. That's basically what you're saying, right?
Sure. I said let's do it. Let's try it.
Let's do it.
And then the rest of the country will see, because the rest of the country already knows. All right, we already know. The overwhelming majority of Americans already know